What does a gut hormone test show? This is a great question because if you're considering optimizing your hormones, your gut is foundational for your overall success in doing that. So in this video, what I'll do is I'll deconstruct the different ways you can test for gut hormone balancing. I'll also show you some things that you want to avoid when it comes to taking action, because you don't want to have the wrong intervention based on one test and miss the big picture because you are only looking at the stool, for example. So we'll deconstruct this. We'll take a deep dive. I'm Regan Archibald, founder of Ageless Future. And the beautiful thing that my team and I have been able to do is to create predictability in treatment protocols. So whether you're someone who's struggled with energy, you're struggling with body composition, you want the best cognitive function of your life, well, there's areas of your health that we can help you optimize. And so let's jump into the video. I make these videos because I want you to be as healthy as you possibly can. I believe it's our most valuable asset that we have is our health. Gut hormone. If you think about some of the hormones you can test that relate to the gut, there's about 6 of these. So gastrin is really important because what gastrin will show is the amount of acid secretion. You can look at glucagon. Glucagon, it shows glycemic control. It shows your insulin sensitivity. We'll look at somatostatin because somatostatin levels, if they're too high, that's going to inhibit your GI hormones, because remember, the hormones, they're the long-term communication and they do relate to some of the mobility issues. Thyroid hormones. Your thyroid has a direct impact on your gut. If you think of people who have hypothyroidism, one of the common side effects that they tell me is constipation. I've had patients who it's once a week. You want to be pooping at least every day, once to twice a day, nice full evacuations. You don't want to have days off on that. VIP, vasoactive intestinal peptide, is another one you can test. You can look at pancreatic polypeptide, and then chromogramin A. So these are all some things that you can look at. But if you start to dissect it, the real thing is, what's your goal? What are you looking to accomplish when it comes to a gut hormone test? Well, number one is if you want better energy, and if you're noticing that you're not holding on to muscle, your skin doesn't look as great, your hair doesn't look as great, then one of the things that we want to look at is a complete stool profile. And so we use Genova. One of the primary tests that we'll use is the GI-FX, and that can show your maldigestion, dysbiosis. It shows if there's infections. It also gives us an idea of the metabolite imbalances, so if you're not getting enough short-chain fatty acids. And it can be a really good indicator for inflammation in your overall gut. But when you go a level deeper, there's a marker in there called beta-glucuronidase, and beta-glucuronidase can reveal how well your body's handling hormones. And so we see a lot of our clients who particularly relates to females, because your hormones are much more complicated than us dudes, generally, because you have cycles throughout 28 to 30 days. But beta-glucuronidase shows if you aren't conjugating and unconjugating hormones, if you're not getting hormones out of your body, these recycled hormones, they dock on the receptor, but you get no benefits from them. So it can really overwhelm the system. And if you just put more hormones in before you fix the beta-glucuronidase pathway, your body may be very susceptible to having adverse effects. So you could have side effects. Acne is a big side effect. You can have bloating. You can just feel really kind of aggravated. And so I don't want that. I want you to be happy. But once you've looked at the stool, the next level down is called BiomeBurden by Cyrex. Now, BiomeBurden is this unique test. It's a newer test, but it shows how your immune system is responding to microbes in the gut. And it's a really important test because one of the things you want to look at is, do you have leaky gut? Do you have excess zonulin and excess lipopolysaccharides? Because if you do have these infections, you're going to see an impact on your hormone levels. Not only are your hormones not going to be able to dock on the receptors, so you have what's called a sex hormone binding globulin that carries hormones around, and it's almost like an Uber driver that takes you to where you need to go, gets you to the right destination. But if you have too many interferences, because these pathogens are overtaking your immune system, then your body gets confused and it's dropping you off at the wrong place. It's like having Uber. It's like, I wanted to go to the airport and you dropped me off at the train station. What am I supposed to do here? It doesn't work as well. And so this BiomeBurden test, I think it's been a phenomenal breakthrough because it does show us the Th1, Th2, Th17 balance, so we can see how well your immune system is performing. And then one of the modulators that is very effective in balancing these levels is thymosin alpha-1. Thymosin alpha-1, especially if we find pathogens, you stack it with LL37. Now remember, these peptides, these are protein structures that turn on genes. They help remodulate the way that your body's communication networks are firing and signaling. And they're very gentle. It's different than using like a LL37, for example. It does specifically target specific bacteria that are not going to be helpful for you. And so they target bacteria, they target fungus, they can target viruses. And so LL37 is very gentle. It's like knocking on the door. Hey, we think there's an intruder in your house. Can we come in? Versus when you take an antibiotic or an antifungal or something like Flagyl for parasites, what you're going to notice is it's just forcing your body to remove everything. You're going to get, sometimes the baby gets thrown out with the bathwater. I don't even know where that expression came from. It's kind of an interesting one. But if you can use the Cyrex BiomeBurden and then you find out that these Th1, Th2, Th17 responses are off, then you can modulate it with thymosin alpha-1. Thymosin alpha-1, it was discovered by Dr. Goldstein at the Albert Einstein School of Medicine in the 80s, and he found that your immune balance is dependent on having proper secretion of thymosin alpha-1. When you use the peptide, you just upregulate your body's intelligence, your immune intelligence, so you can actually fight these pathogens. And then when you use LL37, it comes in like it's just like a silent killer where it just eradicates the things that you don't want in your body. So these can be some very gentle ways of removing the yeast, the mold, the parasites. And we're finding more and more people have these agents. So something that you can do right now to know, is your gut part of your hormonal issue by utilizing these tests. I'm assuming you had a blood test done, and that blood test can be really helpful on a certain level because it shows how your white blood cells are doing, like the eosinophils, your monocytes, your basophils, your neutrophils, and your lymphocytes. But you can actually go deeper with the gut test and then this BiomeBurden test. The thing you can do right away is you can look at your tongue. If your tongue is kind of swollen, doesn't fit in your mouth very well, you have scallops on the side, that can be an indication of a yeast overgrowth, for example, which can diminish your body's progesterone and estrogen levels. They can either make them in excess or deficiency. If you notice that your tongue has a thick white coat or a thick yellow coat, that could be a good indication that you've got some dysbiosis and there could be a bacterial infection, even a parasite infection. If you notice around the full moon, your sleep is not as restful and you're more agitated and maybe you grind your teeth, there could be some parasites. And trust me, a lot of us have them. They're not fun. But then if you can circumvent that using the right peptide protocol, activating your hormones in a nice balanced way, maybe using like some natural agents first, use like gonadorelin, kispectin, and clomiphene, and then make sure that your gut's working properly, that would be a better time to start introducing some of these hormone therapies. So if you're somebody who is like, I want to go deeper and get pointed in the right direction, because time is the one resource we can't get back. And when you have poor health, your quality of life is diminished. And so you can't get that time back. That's where testing becomes really important. All you need to do is go to agelessfuture.com, and then my team will help you get the right testing up front, and they'll be able to meet with my very talented medical team, and we'll help you get pointed in the right direction. I'm Regan Archibald. I'll see you on the next video.